Jonathan Davenport came up a spot short at Smoky Mountain with the World of Outlaws on Friday night, and he explained what his strategy was going into the race that secured him a second place finish and why he came up a little bit short. Roll this up over at stockcarreport.com. You can find the link in the description below. So Davenport ended up finishing in second in his heat race, so that put him in the second half of the redraw where he drew the worst possible position in eighth. But he blitzed his way through the field. By lap 13, he was already bearing down on Pierce, who was in the lead, and had gotten stuck behind Ashton Winger and a number of other lap cars. 2 laps later, Davenport got a huge run down the backstretch and got to the inside of Pierce, but Pierce ran through the middle and kept him pinned down. Davenport was unable to make it stick and had to get out of it, and conceded the lead to Pierce. Pierce would maintain that lead and would never really be challenged the rest of the race, despite Davenport and Nick Hoffman staying within striking distance, especially towards the end. We saw Hoffman close the distance and actually give Davenport kind of a run for his money there for second place, Davenport having to hold him off. So really, really good run. I actually thought Davenport was potentially going to get around Pierce, but once Pierce was able to shut down that one really huge run that Davenport had, I think his tires kind of wore out, and Pierce was able to keep him behind him. And Davenport will actually admit that a little bit later here in the video that he did indeed, his tires did indeed wear out. But this is what he told Hannah Newhouse immediately following the race over on Dirt Vision. He said, "I was just going wherever they wasn't. We went with a little different tire combination, started so far back. I knew short race. I didn't figure there'd be a lot of cautions, how slick the pace was, so we gambled a little bit and it paid off. It got us close." He said, "I needed the lap cars to work out a little bit different, a time or two. And then I thought I had a decent run on Bobby one time and I was going to slide him, and he decided to go the bottom that lap, and I almost took us both out." That is what I was talking about there on lap 15. He had a huge monster run on that lap 15 down the backstretch, got all the way below Bobby and looked like he was in a spot to maybe do the slider, but Bobby again went to the bottom and squeezed him down, so he couldn't really took that slider line away from Davenport there. Anyways, he goes on and says, "And I almost took us both out. That would have been a bad slider," obviously referencing Pierce's comments at Volusia during the Florida Speed Weeks there. And he said, "Just slowed up enough. I figured I was going to spin out." Anyway, luckily we didn't do that. We salvaged a second. If I hadn't have screwed up in the heat race and got a better start, we could have started in the front 2 rows and possibly have won. I was a little bit disappointed the World of Outlaws did not actually include that in their highlights. Like, you would have thought that they would have shown maybe the one major challenge for the lead in their highlights, but when I was kind of going through it, I did not see that at all. So I was a little bit disappointed in that there when I was just kind of looking for it. Anyways, Davenport would reiterate much of what he said to Dirt Vision, to dirtondirt.com as well. But he did add a little bit more talking about the tires. And he says, "I think the track was getting more and more narrow the closer I got to the front there, and my tires were dying too. And I know Bobby always looks at his crew chief and father, Bob Pierce, and they do a really good job of definitely moving him around. He does a good job seeing him. Bob does a good job telling him where to go. So you just got to get there as fast as you can. I really thought I had a pretty good run. I don't even remember. Hell, I slid so many cars there. I think I had a pretty good run there, but he decided to go to the bottom that lap, so I just tried not to take us both out. I knew we had a really good car, but I knew it was a short race, and we were starting far back, so we just gambled on tires to try to get there as fast as possible. And I do think his tires kind of did give out on him there at the end, and that's why he talked about how he had to salvage a second-place finish because he was trying to keep Nick Hoffman at bay. I think Davenport would actually be in the lead if he had done the platinum deal or whatever that the World of Outlaws has. Because if you look down here, you can see that he's in 31st position, and he's got 1 win, 5 top 5s, 5 top 10s, and then Devin Moran is right there with a win and 5 top 5s as well. And then Garrett Albertson is right behind them with 2 wins and 3 top 5s. But because those 3 drivers are clearly racing with the Lucas Oil Late Model Dirt Series, they are not up here with Bobby Pierce and Nick Hoffman. With the win, Bobby Pierce now it sits atop the standings. He has dethroned Ryan Gustin, who was leading the points coming out of Speed Weeks. Nick Hoffman, 12 points short. Ricky Thornton had a really rough night there. He actually was moving through the field as well, similar to Davenport, but I think he started in like 22nd or 23rd, but he got up to maybe close to the top 10. So he actually did really well there as well. But obviously, 35 lap feature, kind of hard to come from that far back and compete, especially if with the tires and everything, you're going to use those up. But you can see here, he is still in third. It's unclear whether or not he is going to race with the World of Outlaws. We will probably see where he will go sometime later this week, whether he will be at Atomic or whether he will be at Georgia in the World of Outlaws. The name of the track escapes me right now. Let's just pull the schedule up right here and we can look at it. I think it starts with an S. Swainsboro, that's it. Or whether or not he will be at Swainsboro. So I think that is kind of the big question mark. Ryan Gustin fell to fourth. He's 32 points behind. Max Blair rounds out your top five. Cody Overton, Brandon Shepard, Ethan Dotson, Brandon Overton, and Drake Troutman are your top 10. I have a feeling this is going to change a lot because we might see different people going different locations. We'll see likely Overton and Shepard will go with Lucas Oil. So I expect them to kind of fall off given the fact that they won't be racing those. And then obviously, even if you get further down here with Tim McCready and Carson Ferguson as well. So we will really see kind of how things shape up here later this week. But that's what I got for you coming out of Smoky Mountain. I know this is a little bit late, but I thought Davenport's comments were pretty interesting. And I thought the race was pretty good, especially Davenport's run. I also, again, going back to Dirt Vision, they didn't show it in the highlights, but I really wish they would have, they could do a little bit better on kind of doing the double vision or whatever you want to call it, multiple cameras, because I would have liked to have seen Ricky Thornton kind of moving through the field there, especially when you clearly see him moving through. Like he started all the way back in the 20s, and then you kind of saw him moving through. So I would have liked to have seen some of that because there clearly was some good racing happening throughout the field. But I get why they wanted to stay on Davenport most of the race because he was obviously charging through the field on 8th, and he put on a really good show there. And then Bobby Pierce obviously did a really good clinic working through that lap traffic and holding off Davenport. So solid race there. And this is what obviously went over what Davenport had to say. But let me know what you guys make of what Davenport had to say and what your thoughts were on the Friday night race there at Smoky Mountain for the World of Outlaws. Let me know in the comments below.